If you've been a listener for some time now, or even, I don't know, an hour, you may have picked up that we're big on charitable giving when it comes to our money. Now, you might not be in a position to hand over money to any charity at the moment, but that's okay. I want you to understand, I guess, the heart behind our podcast and what I encourage people to do with their money when they are at the stage to financially give to an organisation. My financial plan's pretty simple. I like to give some, save some, and then in brackets, invest some next to the save some, and then spend some in that order. So I really have it baked into my personal financial life that I'm a generous giver, then I save for Glen's tomorrow, then I spend. Now, you just need to find a way that works for you. But today on the show, we are talking, it's a bit of a charity update. It's a bit of an update. It is June, and I thought, look, end of financial year, you might want to donate some cash that you have laying around, pick up that tax deduction on the way through, and this could be an option for you. I've got a special guest today, and I'm going to throw to him to kick off the podcast.
Hey Glenn, so stoked to be here. I'm Mark Dombkins. I'm from Forever Projects, coming to you from Wollongong, Australia, raising funds for women in Tanzania. And this is Money, Money, Money.
You're listening to Money, 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 or as the regulars like to call us, M3. Everything discussed on the podcast is general advice only, which I'm licensed to give, and details can be found in the show notes. My name's Glen James, former financial advisor, now podcaster. I host this show and a show called Retire Right. I've also got a book called The Quick Start Guide to Investing, which you can check out wherever good books are sold, or there's a link in the show notes. Otherwise, thanks so much for listening today. Now on with the show. Mark, you have been walking around our corridors for a while now. In the podcast, and you're one of our charities that we promote and legitimately financially support. Mm-hmm. What are you up to? Tell me. Like, you're taking a group of people to Kilimanjaro. Tell us about that. Then we might swing back around and talk a little bit about Forever Projects and go from there.
Sounds good. Yeah, mate, we've just hit some great milestones. We've just passed $2 million sent to the field in Tanzania for the mission since we started, which is incredible. And that's now 2,000 women, 2,500 babies across 6 cities that are going to be together forever through income creation. So it's an incredible milestone to celebrate. We're taking a group of people on an immersion trip to Tanzania, and it'll include a Kilimanjaro summit, boutique safari, and access obviously to the work of Forever Projects. And so I'll be part of that and climbing Kilimanjaro for the second time, but for the first time in my mid-40s, which will be interesting. And yeah, we're all raising money to further the mission into its next decade.
So what does the trip look like? You get a group of people and they try and raise money to sponsor it. What's the shtick there?
Yeah, so the philosophy really is based on some of the leadership trips I've been on in the tech ecosystem. As you know, we've had some good partnerships and traction with some tech companies, and as they're developing leaders, the big philosophy is get people outside of their comfort zone, bake in and venture a lot of peer-to-peer access with people who are on the journey with you. So what better way to do that than walk up Kilimanjaro? It's incredibly outside your comfort zone and walk alongside leaders who you're kind of doing life with in the ecosystem here in Australia, and then do it with purpose. And so, people kind of set themselves a health challenge, get themselves to the top of the mountain, and then set their network a wealth challenge. Each of them are going to try and raise 10 grand, which will empower 8 women and their families through the program. And within 2 days of reaching the summit, fingers crossed we all get there, but I'm confident. Within 2 days of reaching the summit, we'll be connected to the partners in Tanzania that we're funding and seeing where that money's going and saying, we've just raised X and can't wait to see what you get up to with that. So yeah, it's an incredibly transformational experience, having been there a number of times and taken people there. People come back transformed, both as a leader, but also just as a human.
I do want to ask you a little bit more about the trip and how people can get involved in this trip or a future trip or Forever Projects itself. But for those who might be new to the podcast, what is Forever Projects? Why Tanzania? Why women? And why are you a maths teacher?
Oh, just love that fourth one, Well, mate, let's start with the fourth one, shall we?
Yeah, do that, because Forever Projects, it's not your full-time day job, is it?
No, so I'm a part-time maths teacher, part-time early stage founder for projects, and maths teacher by trade. That was what took me to Tanzania back in 2010. So my wife and I moved there with our 4 and 1 year old. My wife Anna's a school psychologist, so she was the boarding parent at this international school. I was teaching maths. Our kids were in school. We're there 3.5 years, and we'd always really felt strongly about opening up our home to kids who didn't have that hope of a family of their own. So during that long period there, we went through the Tanzanian social welfare system, fostered and eventually adopted 3 more beautiful kids. So I went from 2 to 5 overnight, all biological siblings. And there's a whole realm of a story I could go into there, but really the thing that sparked for the projects was, the day we left the baby home with our 3, we walked past 57 other kids that weren't going to go to a family that day. And we just what would need to have changed here? And all of these kids in our kids, biological mum's story, so that abandonment, malnourishment could have been avoided. And so that question really was one that we asked and just sat with us. And then we kept asking that question of the agency we'd adopted through, and they were saying, we want to see a happier state would be where there were no kids in this orphanage because families were together. And they'd started piloting this program, this 12-month program that would keep families together. They'd provide nutrition for the child, crisis support for the family, and then they'd help women set up a small business that would, within 12 months, mean a chubby, healthy toddler, a sustainable income, and a independent future. And so that was kind of where Forever Projects started. We just said, well, what can we do? They said, we need funds. And off we went. And it started with friends and family. Eventually, we could not keep up with their vision in Tanzania as they were wanting to grow it through just annual events. So we're like, let's register a charity and try and keep up with them. And here we are.
Mm. So you have the registered charity in Australia, Forever Projects, and then in terms of the mechanics of it, you send money over to an organisation that's on the ground in Tanzania that's got full oversight, and you can actually have accountability of that money going into the projects and into the women and children.
That's it. Yeah. And we realised early on what they could do best was the actual delivery of the program. They know their culture and people better than we do. But what we could do would be to, build a charity and then a brand and a community around the funding side. And it's only $1,200 for a woman to go through this program. And within 12 months, she's completely transformed. We're now 10 years in. We'll be 10 in October, and we're seeing 10-year impact stories of women who joined back then, and the baby was 3 and 4 months old. The team's gone out and collected these long-term stories and taken photos, and these kids are holding the photo of themselves at 3 or 4 months old, and the business is still thriving. And it was just that $1,200 back in 2015 that's completely transformed them, and so it's quite powerful. So DJ1 status here, build a community and raise a brand and raise funds. And then just get out of their way. And as you know, the unique part of the business model is that we recognised early on that our friends and family loved that they could trust that they give us money back before there was a charity, and we just draw it out of our bank account in Tanzania and give it to them. And they loved that they could be confident that every cent would go. And so we created this business model that 100% of all donations to Tanzania will go there. Because we've got 65 donors, including yourself, generous legend, who cover all of our charitable kind of overheads in Australia, all the unsexy costs that people, don't necessarily get excited about funding. Legends like you get excited about funding them. And so your listeners, some of whom give very generously to Forever Projects, they know every cent's going to that program.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing because I don't know, I kind of just wanted to chat with Mark today, a bit of an update for everyone. And sometimes when I talk about this stuff, I get heaps in my head and skeptical and you'd know me for a long enough time now that I mean well.
Yeah.
Why? The thing I struggle with is why aren't we helping disadvantaged people in Australia when we live in Australia and blah, blah, blah. But I think just with our charitable giving, we have choice. And for me, I think it is tying the actual real story of you and seeing what is on the ground there, knowing that this is a dumb question. Do I do maybe $6,000 a year or something in the pot, in both pots or something? So
you do.
So I know that Glenny J in Newcastle, there are 6 women and children on the other side of the world whose lives are changed just from income that I generate on this podcast.
It's incredible. Every year.
Yeah, and then the other part of the pot, because I really love what you're doing, so for everyone listening, I donate, I think, $550 a month from the business bank account into the field, 100% over there. And then in my personal mortgage offset account, my cash hub, if you do the Glen James spending plan, I donate, I think, another $550 a month into your head office because I want my listeners to know that if they did want to put any money into forever projects, 100% of their pot will land on the field.
Yep, that's exactly how it works. Yep, and I love that. The people in that group who are paying for our overheads in Australia are people like you who run businesses, or they might be investors and they understand the power of leverage, and that, whereas for the everyday consumer who doesn't necessarily understand or want to understand the complexity of a charity, they just want to go, look, I want to help. I'm moved by this story. I believe it. I trust it. I'll give to it. They want to just go, then that's going. So the business model just segments the proposition for someone, and that you're helping us. Like all the kind of work and time our team's spent into getting this Tanzania trip together, it's raising incredible money already. Like that wouldn't have been possible without you backing us to open up a new, revenue segment. But in the meantime, you're also giving to the ongoing work.
Yeah, and I think I may have answered my own question around that, like why give money overseas and all that. I think there's just choice, right?
Yeah.
Like we all earn our own money and we can all have our own agency of where to donate money to.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so like on our website, we support a variety of different charities. We've got the First Nations Foundation, which is an Australian charity. We've got Share the Dignity, UNICEF Australia, but I think a lot of the money probably goes overseas, UNHCR, Baptist World Aid Australia, A21. So look, there is, I don't really care where anyone gives. I just want to encourage people, if you are in a financial position, to extend yourself financially and be a generous person. That's awesome. If you love the local dog shelter down the road, awesome. My own view is people first, then animals. But if you want to just do the dog shelter, knock yourself out. They do amazing. Most charities all around the world do amazing work, right? And this is just anything that we recommend. I really want to have some type of rationale or basis, or know that there's long-term, there's actual evidence that the money does go to the field. And forever projects, there is categorical evidence that any of my listeners or anyone out there who donates any money, 100% of that gets on the field for forever projects.
That's it. Yeah, and I think that I love the point around discretion and agency and choice for the donor to kind of give where they are motivated to give. And I think, that we get that question a lot. What about our own backyard? And we say it's incredibly important. And if you feel motivated and captivated by causes locally, then we'd be stoked that you give. And we're not going to try and compete with someone doing great work here. We'd say, hats off to you. Do you want any recommendations? We've given recommendations before and asked someone, what areas do you want to get funding in? We know someone in that space that's working really well, make an introduction for you. Because if you said, well, from an abundance worldview, then that's what you do. I think the other thing that consider though also is around recognizing when you're paying tax, you're also supporting a lot of great services that maybe could be sometimes more efficient, but you're also actually contributing that kind of way. And that's another point of difference with forever projects, in that sadly in that country, the safety net is very low compared to here. The safety net's quite high because of the tax system and the things we just take for granted. And so in some way the donation dollar going over there is like offsetting the safety net that should be there from government. I think the other thing I'd say around that is there's the importance of giving to something that, feels like it means something to you and aligns with your values and vision of the world. But it's also probably what you're looking at. So if it's an animal kind of dog shelter kind of thing, it's probably because you care about that. And you're seeing that a lot in your news feed, the people you follow. You're conscious of this issue and a pain point that an animal is feeling. If you're donating $5 a month, 10 a month, 20 a month, $1 million to that cause, when you see that animal in pain, you've also got a reminder, I'm someone who contributes to this, and then that's identity forming, and I think that's really important. So if you're someone that's looking more globally minded, more people focused like yourself, again, you don't look on and go, oh my gosh, the world's in complete despair and I'm not the kind of person that does anything about it, you're going, oh, I can check my credit card. I'll give to UNICEF. I'll give to Forever Projects. The world's in a bit of trouble, but I'm not part of the problem. I'm part of the solution. And that's, I don't know how you live in the world when it goes through difficult seasons like we're in and not contribute to it, because you end up worse off by not giving.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important message. You know, big picture, we want everyone to be able to give financially, to insert cause here. Now, I would, as I said, if you want to donate to Forever Projects or the local animal shelter, amazing. Knock yourself out, because no one can tell you that's bad for donating money to someone else. Like, it's your money, do what you want with it. But for me, I've just highlighted charities that I've got a connection either with yourself or I'm getting to know the team more at Baptist World Aid Australia and they're doing awesome stuff. And then big picture, UNICEF, you know, all that kind of global stuff, and particularly, you know, Indigenous Australian, you know, financial literacy and education with First Nations Foundation. So the problem is, Mark, you know, I'm sure every charity in Australia would like to come on the podcast and chat with me, but I have to pretty much have a very short list and just be hyper focused, and I'll never be able to say, sorry, all right, everyone, Mark and Forever Projects, they're our main charities.
Yes. No, that's good. And it's like a good diversified investment portfolio, right? You're diversifying your charitable portfolio. I love it.
Yeah. So we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about some of the cool work that you're doing. We'll be back right after this.
If you're after personal financial advice, don't get it from a podcast. But if you want guidance tailored to your situation, head to moneypodcast.com.au and click Get Help. We'll connect you with one of our trusted professionals, financial advisors and mortgage brokers, who work with people right across Australia. No matter where you are, they can help. Now, before we get back to the show, a quick reminder to protect your financial life. That means having income protection sorted. It means having death cover if there's any debt or dependents relying on you. It means getting your personal insurance in order. Most people insure their car, they insure their house, but what about themselves? Sky Wealth, who support this podcast, are specialist financial advisors who can help you get the right cover in place. Their advice is often more comprehensive and better value than going direct through your super. Book a complimentary 15-minute chat at sky.com.au. That's skye.com.au, and they'll point you in the right direction.
So you have, oh gosh, you always annoy me and you're like, come to Tanzania. I'm like, no, go away. I don't want to. But it's funny because my own kind of view is like, by the time I pay an airfare and some accommodation, and I'm not just going to go to, you know, Tanzania and then back home, it would be linked to a bigger trip. Like, I've kind of just with a view, like, I'd rather just give money that I would have spent on an airfare. I'm sure one day I will get there and, you know, insert it part of maybe a holiday or something like that. But the Tanzanian trip, you have a series, because you're really in that, you know, the tech startup world, aren't you? You've got a connection in with Canva, you know, someone who works there.
And a bunch of other ones where it's like we just feel like our business model and kind of philosophy has resonated with the way they are showing up. It's a good beachhead in terms of go-to-market. Yeah.
So you've got a heap of tech bros and gals going to Tanzania. So how long's the trip in total?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
So
it's a 1 week trek to the top, and then there's
literally walking every day for a week. Yeah, not doing it. Straight up.
Yeah. There's some people who are meeting us at the bottom after we're done, and they're like, "I'll be there for the second half of that."
I applaud it. It's just not me. Like,
yeah.
Oh, far out. That's awesome. And so you're doing the trek, and then how many people on the trip?
It's going to be about 12. Yeah.
And then you've got talk to us about. So Maddie and Sophie are podcasters. They've got the podcast called So Invested. They're going with you. They're journaling or doing some audio journaling of it as well. If you want to go over and have a listen to them, you'll hear it in real time in a few months, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
When is the trip as well?
Yeah, so we're going mid-July, so 13th of July through to the end of July-ish, 26th. So 13th to 26th of July. Yep. Yeah. And the big thing there is thinking around having been on these trips before and knowing how people come back transformed and then wanting to go on the next one and telling people how do we create and capture the content around the experience that people are having, both in terms of their own personal transformation, but also like social impact, and how do organizations see what this is doing for their leaders, and how do we then captivate them to get more involved in more of a B2B kind of growth play. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's cool because even with, how many full-time employees total talent pool that are employed by Forever Projects?
Oh, like 1.2.
Right.
So yeah.
So you're the point. You're the part two.
On 0.6, and our growth lead's 0.4, and then we've got some contractors and accounting in bits and pieces. Yeah.
But you've got a full board that's accountable, do all that, and they obviously do that as a donation of their time.
Yep.
And I think the cool thing is about the model of the 100% giving model. You've built the charity from the ground up so that operations can be lean and scalable.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Because for me, and this is where it's the mind F for me, if I'm giving $550 a month to the heart and heartbeat, and then $550 into the blood of, all the work that's happening, like in theory, my donation, there is 50% overhead. However, at a charity level, you step back over time as your charity grows and scales, that overhead percentage, if you look at it through that fundamentalist way that I am looking at it, that will get smaller and smaller for the total pool.
Yep. Yeah. Goals to get it to like 20% overhead, 80% funds, or even the charity we look to in the US has got it to I think 1 to 6.
Yeah, wow.
Which is pretty cool. And they've been going for much longer, and they've now raised $1 billion. But that's kind of the goal.
And I think it's it is a nuanced way. It's like, okay, so there's probably people that won't be doing what I'm doing, where it's a bit of both. But even if they go, well, I'm giving $100, there is some money that this charity receives for operations. When you actually step back and pool it up, it's actually a very, very low overhead. In like at a global view, but at least for those giving, they know that literally if I give $1 coin, that single dollar coin will get onto the field. Yeah. But all that to say, I don't know, I was just kind of thinking, we haven't caught up on the podcast for a while, and I think a lot of people are interested in the mechanics of the charity and how it works. So back to the cricket, when you come down the mountain, so you're doing a bit of a walk up the mountain and all that stuff. How high is Kilimanjaro?
Yeah, 6,000 meters. So you start at 1,500 meters, and then you very quickly get to about 3,500, 4,000. And so it's about 1,000 in elevation gain a day. And then the goal is to get there and spend a couple of days at that elevation to get used to it, so that when you do the final push from 4.5 to 6, you're already kind of used to as you can be, that 4,000 plus elevation. And then, so the whole hike's 62 kilometers distance.
So are there like Sherpas that carry food and water? Is there a horse that goes like?
No, they're like incredible local Tanzanian men and women who love that as their job, and they're incredible at it. Yeah.
Wow. It's just amazing.
Yeah. And interestingly for me, like I think I climbed it when I was 33 and I was teaching maths over there. I did it as part of the outdoor education program.
Right. And
so we're climbing with a bunch of school students. We had to get it done in 5 days, carry all of our stuff. And got there in the end, and that was all fantastic. But this time doing it, nearly 45, and a few years ago I had like a incredibly traumatic bicycle accident, nearly lost my left foot, triple compound fracture in my ankle, and so did all the rehab. But to be thinking back at that point that I'd be, walking or running, let alone hiking Kilimanjaro again, a bit of a
miracle,
amazing moment. So there's a lot in it for me in terms of just being able to say, I can still do this stuff.
So after the mountain, then you'll go into Tanzania around the parts where the charity is on the ground.
Yeah.
And people will be able to see where the orphanages are, where the training programs are?
Yeah. So we'll be there. We'll get there Monday kind of afternoon, and then every Tuesday is the day where women come from all over parts of this city in Mwanza, where we'll be, and they come for the training program. So it's a 12-month program, weekly skills and health training. Each week's a different kind of part of the curriculum that's being taught, and it's a pretty incredible thing to be part of, where you've got the local team teaching that, but then you've got the babies being weighed. Each week they're weighed and the weight's recorded to check that they're actually gaining weight, and then the nutritional kind of provision they're getting that week is proportional to the weight. And then there's just the peer-to-peer element with the women who are just making friends and like going from isolation to feeling connected and belonging, which some of these women have felt incredible stigma because their partner's left, or maybe they're HIV positive, or their child's got some kind of disability, which in those cultures can just be completely, that's all you need to be exiled, and they go from exile to connection. So seeing the energy in the room between them is incredible. So yeah, can't wait for our participants to go there and be part of that. Last time we were there, we shared a meal with the women, and then we'll get to spend some time in the afternoon visiting some of the businesses they've started, and have a nice dinner with the local team, where I'm sure everyone who's joining us will have a zillion and one questions for the local partners about their work and incredible impact they're making. Yeah,
So the women, they'll come in once a week on the Tuesday, go through some educational programs, check-ins with the babies, and they take some food with them, or?
No, the obstacle for these families initially, and the kind of catalyst for them joining the program, is they can't provide nutrition for their babies. So either they're not lactating as a mother because they're too sick, or if sadly the mum's passed away, then a grandmother or aunt has stepped in, she's not able to lactate. And so the only food being given is the nutrition for the child in the form of formula milk, because breast milk's not available.
Yep.
And that's in proportion to the weight of the child and what they need at the time. And so it's like 60 different babies, 60 different kind of solutions that are all recorded, and it's just enough nutrition for the next week.
Yeah, so they'll get the formula, and here is each daily dose of formula, and then we'll come back, we weigh, and then reassess each week.
Yep. And then at strategic points throughout that 12 months, so you've got your initial kind of home visit that the team will do. So in between the Tuesdays, the team's out on the road visiting women at different stages of the program. So if they're just first joined, they'll meet and understand what the context is where they live, and is there any kind of crisis support they can provide to immediately improve quality of life. But if it's like a month 3, they might be starting to think about, all right, what business can we look at being viable in your village? And then at month 6, let's get that capital injected and get the business started. Month 9, how's the business going? What's the kind of margins and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so a woman in the program in her village, if there is some type of alterations type sewing business, the program would furnish a sewing machine potentially.
Yep.
And then, teach her how to, run the business, and then effectively she doesn't have to pay back the money or anything like that. So, and then she can start to provide for her own family. And at the same time, Bub is getting weekly check-ins and the correct nutrition. So it's a total cool thing. So a woman might come to the program. Would you say some women might come towards the end of the pregnancy and get plugged in, or do you?
Usually, it would be like the malnourished infant is the catalyst. So if they're given birth, like they're not going to know if they can't lactate before they've given birth. So it's always going to be after the fact. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a mother will come in with an infant who she's struggling with to give nutrition naturally, for want of a better word, and then she gets plugged into the program. We get Bub, weekly check-ins and the appropriate nutrition and medical checks, and at the same time, you help her if she is a single mum, set up a potential small business in her local area so she can start to provide financially for herself and her family.
Yeah, and then towards the end of that 12 months, once the child's weaned, they're onto solids that mum can either grow or provide through the income from the business, and then the business is starting to get its own head of steam. And again, as I was saying earlier, like 10 years later, looking at the long-term impact of these businesses, that it was only the $1,200 covers all of what you've just described. It's an incredibly powerful investment that's kept the family together. You think about the cost of what that would have been on the family, let alone the economy, to look after that child in institution, or the trauma that comes from that. It's a no-brainer.
So, okay, this is interesting. So $1,200 Australian will get a woman through that program for 12 months.
Yep.
Provide the food and the nutrition for the baby and any small business type support and investment. Would you say, it is June, if someone is interested and they might go to the Forever Project's website, foreverprojects.org, what about if you are interested in this charity, everyone, and you have, and I know a lot of you have lots of money saved out there. There's a lot of people that are getting established and all that, but trust me, there are a lot of people that I was talking to someone, a listener in Melbourne the other day in Perth, with over 80 or 90 grand saved, and they've got an emergency fund, and they're a single person and all this stuff. Like, I know a lot of you out there listening have a lot of money, and the challenge is, can you throw in $1,200 before the end of June? Bam, $1,200. You've done a good thing. You've provided 12 months of support. Then what about we step back and just go, look, I'm going to do, I don't know, $100 a month from June. And then over that year, that $1,200 is done.
Yeah.
That's the challenge to everyone. Dump in $1,200. If you don't have $1,200 and you like the sound of all this, $20 will go a long way. I'm just kind of big picture, and I know there are a lot of people out there who have got lots of money and don't give any to charity, and you guys need a bit of a tickle and a bit of a, come on, you're fine. Let's be generous.
And also don't miss out. It's incredible.
Yeah. So that's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's cool to see, when you've invited your community in the past to this. I think we were talking the other day about Damo and Ashley, who heard the pod originally, and that was when Ashley was pregnant, and she was saying, I just can't imagine having this baby and not being able to feed him or her. Obviously didn't know at the time. So, and they've been giving $100 a month ever since. And so every year that goes by, when I come on the pod again, hopefully they go, oh yeah, that's right. That's another woman and her family that we have helped through this program. Yeah.
So that's it. Like, I 100%, I'm talking to the people. You're out of consumer debt. You got your emergency fund. You're saving hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month. I want you to just pause and be like, how can I be financially generous? Now, Mark might like me saying this, but if it's not Forever Projects, can you put $1,200 into Baptist World Aid or UNICEF or insert cause here? And then in July, start doing regular monthly charitable giving. I do it monthly to Forever Projects and all the charities because I have a heart attack if Mark said, oh, it's June, where's your 12 grand? Not that he says that, but like, it's a heart attack. So I just cash flow it.
Yeah.
But the challenge here is I want you to be financially generous. Now, if you're not in the right stage to give financially, can you go and follow Forever Projects on Instagram? Can you share this episode? Can you give your neighbor a smile?
Yeah.
Can you just cook someone a meal?
Yeah, and going back to the thing we've often talked about with our community is the question we ask is what's in your hands?
Yeah.
And what's in your hands may be money, as we've discussed, but it may be time, it may be skills, it may be platform. And, you're incredible that you're giving all those things. But, this Kilimanjaro.
I'm not really giving my time. That's the problem.
I'm looking at the time. We've been chatting for half an hour. This is the opportunity cost of your time.
Yeah, but it's a worthwhile investment.
It's a friendly chat. But we've and people who go, look, I'd love to climb Kilimanjaro. I am a good fitness freak, but I don't have the money to go on this trip. We've got a campaign every October we do called Watch Your Kilimanjaro, where we say maybe it's not the physical mountain like I'm going to climb, but everyone in our community in October sets a physical challenge related to the stats. So they might be, a friend of mine is in that case climbing stairs in the Illawarra Escarpment, did 300 metre ascents 20 times in a week, matching Kilimanjaro, raised 14 grand. His company matched it. That was actually the thing that kicked off the campaign. So all you need is your time and your ability, your strength, and then you don't need to raise a give a cent, because you'll inspire and captivate your community to do it. So there's all kinds of ways that we want to make it easy for people to give with what's in their hands. And
Amazing.
There's no need to miss out.
That's so amazing. Now, did you want to say anything else before we end?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people here listening who love that idea of, leveling up as a leader. And we're really excited about this trip that we're curating. One of our participants just hit $10,000 funds raised, and I was able to send her and her husband this 8 stories, this little series we've called Flip the Script, and it was 8 stories from back in 2015 and the impact it's had. And I was like, in 2035, I'll send you something like this, and that will be the impact 10 years later of your community's generosity. So this trip, I think, has got the real power going forward. This is the first of many. So if being part of a trip this year in July is a bit short notice, which I assume will be, but this is the kind of thing that you'd like to be part of as a leader, or you think it'd be great to integrate into your business as part of a leadership development program. We're partnering with Ben Crow and the team at Mojo Crow to build the kind of purpose leadership stuff into it. So it's got legit L&D outcomes. Definitely reach out.
That's a good shout out. Like if you are a business, I know, and we won't say their names publicly, but there are other businesses that I know in the financial advice world who I've connected in to Forever Projects, and they've become a donor. So I think it's a really good thing that, there is something, and maybe I need to do something in my team with like, hey, anyone in my team, if you want to donate to Forever Projects or insert your charity here, I will match it as a business up to a threshold.
Yeah. Disclaimer.
Someone's like, Glenn, I just donated $1 million. I'm like, I don't have to spare $1 million. I'm sorry.
You'll have to sell the boat, mate.
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't get much for that. But funny, everyone probably who has listened to the podcast for some time, and who are regulars and all that, and we had the lotto winners who won the 30 million Powerball. I texted her the other day when you were like at Kilimanjaro, and I'm like, hey, you've got time and money. Do you want to go to Kilimanjaro? And she's like, oh, that sounds amazing, but she actually had something already in their calendar. So I'll
maybe next year.
Yeah, maybe they could just flick $100,000 to Forever Projects. Oh, but just on that, last year we did an episode where you wanted to raise money for a Land Cruiser for the project. Talk to us about that. Where did that get to, and did that get solved?
Yeah, so that was incredible. It was actually the episode that we recorded before the end of the financial year last year, and we just started the campaign. And I think you got online and made the first donation.
I did, I remember. Yeah.
And it was incredible. We hit the target within 13 days, and those funds have enabled the team the funds they've needed to be able to access that vehicle. So that's incredible.
Yeah. So what next? You've helped close to 2,000 babies stay with their families. Are we doing more countries, deeper programs, or we just keep on keeping on? Do you ever think you'll, in the area of Tanzania, like how many people in the city or the village where you are?
Yeah, so Mwanza, the main city that the program's based in, there'd be between 5 and 6 million people.
So you're not pretty much going to come on next year and be like, all right, Glenn, we've finished up. We've solved all the problems that we were doing in Tanzania, in this city, so we're off to another country.
No, well, but what the kind of 3-part big picture vision would be, number one, like making sure that the partners we're currently funding can flex to full capacity where they are, because they're very careful to make sure they're not admitting more women than they could potentially afford to. If they don't have the funds to actually finish that $1,200, then they won't admit them. So that's important. Second, they're thinking about what are some strategic locations within the city, big city like Mwanza, that they could like have a satellite 12-month program happening in, so that women who are traveling an hour to get there on a Tuesday could travel 5 minutes instead. And then third, we are thinking about, once we've got sufficient funding to be just providing that consistency and reliability for our current partners in their programs, how can we fund it further afield? And there's partners in Kenya and in Uganda that we've got a connection with. We haven't said, hey, we're going to start raising funds for you, but just thinking about diversifying where the funds are going. And learning from friends and mentors who are in the space who have done, like I think I said earlier, like $1 billion for clean, safe drinking water. They've got a portfolio of impact partners across the world. And there was one period where there was a civil war that broke out, and it jeopardized the programs that they were actually funding. And so if they were all in on that one country, they've not diversified away the risk that comes from political kind of upheavals. And so that's something we're starting to think about as we talk to people in space who are further down the road. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
awesome.
Always more to do, but it's about that tension between being present with the current joy and challenges and looking ahead to the future. And it's incredible.
Well, we will await an update from Mark and the team on the mountain.
Yes.
Sophie and Maddie, they're going to be documenting it in some type of podcast thing with the So Invested podcast. And my challenge to everyone who is in a position to give financially, I have to be clear. I'm not saying everyone give, because everyone's like, oh, Glenn said give, we got no money. No. If you've got money, you know who you are. This is the thing. You know who I'm talking to. You've got more money than God in your bank account. You're a tight ass and you don't give financially. I'm talking to you. I've put my mouth where my money is and all that stuff. I've just donated, while we were chatting, $400 Australian on behalf of my 4 team members, Jess, Rach, Sean and Josh, and straight into forever projects from my business. And I'll walk the talk and talk the walk and all that stuff when it comes to charity giving all day long. So
it's incredible. Thank you, Glenn.
The challenge is out there. We'll put a link in the show notes, Forever Projects. If you don't have the money at the moment, please follow them on Instagram. Just search Forever Projects. And yeah, we'll keep promoting you guys as long as you keep doing a good thing.
Thanks, mate. And that was very sneaky. I didn't even see you get online and give that. So, no,
yeah, well, look at that. I've
got a little button on your desk that's like give, give.
Actually, I put it in originally. It's like $400 a month. Oh, no, once off. But we will leave it there. Just a little thing in finishing. Hey, there are a lot of charities in Australia that do fantastic things. Every time I do these episodes, my inboxes, Instagrams and all that are inundated with charities who want to come on and talk on the podcast. I just ask that you do not do that, because you might get disappointed. At the moment, I'm not looking for any other organisations at the moment within the money network and world to add to our list and talk about. So I just want to be real with you, and I've got bandwidth with which I can do, and that's why we've just got a limited amount. But I just encourage anyone to be a generous giver when it comes to financial means. And like you said, Mark, you might have some other things that your local dog shelter may need someone awesome to do their social media, and that could be you. So
100%.
All right, Mark,
thanks,
get out of here, kids. And we'll wait for your update in the future.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Okay, bye.
Any advice is general financial advice only, which does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Because of that, you should consider if the advice is appropriate to you and your needs before acting on the information. If you do choose to buy a financial product, read the Product Disclosure Statement, PDS, and Target Market Determination, TMD, and obtain appropriate financial advice tailored to your needs. Simo Interactive Pty Ltd, the publisher of this podcast, and Glen James are authorised representatives of Money Sherpa Pty Ltd, which holds financial services license 451289. Opinions or comments from any guests on the podcast are theirs and not those of the host or the publisher or their respective license holders.